On another note, today is actually the 100th episode of The Best You. We've been doing The Best You calls. We've done videos, and now here we are on the Periscope broadcast. And my dear friend Cindy reminded me of that yesterday, and I thought, wow, how incredible is that? 100 episodes. So we're really excited about it. And this morning, what we're going to talk about, I think really encompasses 99 episodes. If I could take, 99 messages and wrap them all into one, I think this morning would do that. And yesterday, I really loved what we talked about, and we drew from a biblical story. We drew from the story of David, and I shared with you that, so much of what we read in personal development books and self-help books, leadership development books, if you really look back to the original content, so much of that content comes from the Bible. Regardless of your religious stance, these are timeless truths. So this morning, I'm also going to pull from the Bible and a story that's always meant a lot to me. It's not a story you hear very much, and this might not be a name that you're familiar with. But I think it's going to be a story that relates to a lot of people that are on today. We have a lot of people that watch our broadcast on the replay. And I think it's going to mean a lot to those guys when they join us later on. We're titling this, You're Welcome at the King's Table. You are welcome at the King's Table. And what we're going to talk about is a story from the book of 2 Samuel, again in the Bible. It's a story about a man by the name of Mephibosheth. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard that name, but it's 2 Samuel chapter 9. And David is also one of the main characters in that story. And just kind of picking up from yesterday, now David is king, Saul is gone. And David comes to one of his servants and he asked this question. He said, is there anyone left of the house of Saul so that I may show God's kindness to him? Because I want to show kindness, even though Saul wasn't for me, even though Saul chased me and wanted to kill me, is there anyone left of that house so that I may show God's kindness to him? And Ziba, one of the servants, said, there is just one, and he's the son of Jonathan. And Jonathan and David were very, very close. There's the son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet. Now notice that was the description that was given of this person. The son of Jonathan, and he is lame in both feet. And David says, okay, tell me where he is. So Ziba says, well, he is in a place called Lodabar, which is outside of the city. It was a place really of destitution. It was a very impoverished, poor area. And that's where this king's grandson had been living that was crippled in both of his feet. So I'm assuming he could barely walk, if he could walk at all. And so the story goes on where David summons this person. So they brought this man called Mephibosheth before David, brought him back to Jerusalem. And he's very afraid. And David says, hey, don't be afraid, for I'm going to show you kindness for the sake of your father. And here's what he says. He said, I'm going to restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table. Now notice what Mephibosheth says in response. He says, what is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me? Who am I that you would notice a dead dog like me? And then David goes on to say, hey, I'm going to give you all of this. I'm going to restore everything that you've lost. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you servants to help you till the land and help you build prosperity, and on and on and on. And completely restored this crippled person and said, and by the way, you're going to eat at my table every single day for the rest of your life. You're never going to be a destitute again. You're going to eat at my table. So here's a few truths that I want to share from this story that I think really relates to a lot of us, and sometimes what we feel in our response to tragedy, our response to mistakes, our response to pain and wounds that have come into our life. Because the fact is, all of us have experienced pain, no matter how positive you are, no matter how great your life is, no matter, what face you put on to everyone else. We've all experienced pain and loss. I think you would agree with that. It's something that, as humanity, we all share those scars and those wounds. The question is, where have we gone from those wounds? And what does our life look like today in response to everything that we face? Let me give you a few truths from the story that I think really mean a lot to all of us. First of all, I believe that our wounds and our mistakes often keep us from our destiny. Our wounds and our mistakes often keep us from really living in our destiny and living out the purpose that we're intended to live out. Those innate things inside of us, right? Because Mephibosheth had two really big issues in his life. Number one, notice this. He was the grandson of a man that made mistakes. He was the grandson of Saul, who chased David, who was very jealous and very envious and did not die a great death. He was the grandson of a man that made mistakes, and his legacy was tied to family issues. And maybe you can look in your life, or maybe look at someone else in your life and kind of see how their legacy has been tied to family issues, and they're judged on things their family has done. They're judged on what their parents did or what grandparents did. And maybe just generationally, things have, come into their own life because of what's really happened in their family's life. And maybe you can see where you've been judged based on not even what you did or what you've done, but what's happened in your own family. That was the number one thing he was dealing with. The second thing he was dealing with was the fact that he was lame. And he was lame in both feet. So his wounds kept him literally from moving forward, from working, from building, from becoming his own man. So wounds and mistakes in his family kept him in a place called Lodabar, kept him away from everyone else and destitute and impoverished. And it's amazing how we can look in our own life and see where something that happened 5 years ago, even today, is keeping us from moving forward. It's taken away our confidence. It's taken away our spirit. It's really crippled us emotionally. It's crippled our faith, and where we used to be able to dream big and say, hey, I can do this. Anything's possible. I can go forward. I can accomplish great things, but now we hesitate. You know what I'm talking about? We don't have that confidence anymore because something has crippled our confidence. It's crippled our belief. It's crippled our faith. And many people never move beyond something that's happened to them or around them even years before. Which takes me to my second point. Many times we allow labels to define us. We allow labels to define us when we're so much more than a label. We're so much more than what we've gone through. We're so much more than anything that we've experienced, but yet labels often define us, and we internalize that, and we wear those labels every single day. Here's who I am because of what I've done or because of what I've been through. So when David asked, is there anyone left of the house of Saul? Notice this. What was Ziba's response? He said, number one, he's a son of Jonathan. And number two, he's lame in both feet. Never mentioned his name. Never mentioned his name. Only the family heritage, which wasn't a great heritage going up to grandpa. And secondly, the fact that he was wounded. His entire identity was wrapped up in those two issues. That's how he was known to the world. That's how he was introduced to the king, was the fact that he was lame. And because he had some family stuff going on. So ask yourself, how would you describe your life? Would you describe your life by things that you've gone through? If someone asked you to describe your last 10 years, would you describe it by what you faced and maybe mention the mistakes that you've made and failures that you've experienced? Or maybe how have others tried to define you? How have others tried to label you? You know, when I've heard, you know, when people want to think of someone else, they'll say, "Oh yeah, she was just divorced recently," or "Oh yeah, she's a single mom. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Oh yeah, I remember them. They did this. Oh yeah. I remember that person. Yeah, because here's what they went through." And instead of using someone's name, like Mephibosheth, they use a label. They use your wound. They use what you went through. You know what I'm saying? And we allow those labels to define us. But here's the third truth. The king wants to restore everything you've lost and give you a better future. The king does. And only the king can do that, right? So the king says, I want you to go get him. And I want you to bring him out of Lodabar, the land of destitution. And I want you to bring him back to Jerusalem and bring him back to my house. And here's the thing. I want to restore everything that he's lost. I want to restore everything he's lost financially. I want to restore his name. I want people to know what his name is. I want to restore him emotionally. I want to give him the ability to go create again, to go be prosperous again. How am I going to do that? All you guys, I want you to go serve him in his house, serve his kids, serve his grandkids forever. I want you to build up everything that this man has lost. And I believe that as we talk about the best you, right? There's no way to ever get to the best you by ourselves. I believe that 100%. We can't walk in greatness on our own. There's not enough books you can read. There aren't enough seminars that you can go to. Sometimes things just have to be restored to you. And only the king can do that. And that's just something that I'm so passionate about. Only the king can really restore everything that you've ever lost in your life. And I know me, with all the stuff that I've gone through and the mistakes that I've made and losses that I've experienced and pain that I've had in my heart. If I can look back to the time that I got past it, it wasn't because I read a book. It was because I experienced some healing. And I felt inside of myself the assuredness that I don't have to be defined like that. I don't have to live in this pain forever. I don't have to live underneath the shadow of what I've gone through and what I've experienced. And the king restored to me everything that I lost, to the point that I said, you know, I'm not in this life to simply react. I'm not in this life to just respond to circumstances. I'm in this thing to go create and to move beyond. And there's a purpose and there's a plan that's bigger than what I've gone through. And the king wants to restore everything that you've lost. And that's the fourth thing I'll say is this. And I think it's the most beautiful part of the story, is that when Mephibosheth came back to the king's house and the king said, hey, I want you to come in here to my dining room and I want you to sit at my table. And I've got all these noblemen here and noble women here. And all the leaders in the kingdom are here at this table. And Mephibosheth, here's your chair. And from here on out, for the rest of your life, you'll never sit in destitute again. But you're going to sit at my table. Because you're going to be known by the best things in your life. The fact that you're Jonathan's son. You're going to be known by the best things in your past. That you're important. That you belong to a kingly heritage. And you're going to sit at my table. Because you're accepted. You have a name now. People are going to know you. You're not just going to be the person that's called the one that's lame in both feet. You're going to have a name, and you're going to have a place and a position, and your future will never be what your past has been. And catch this. I heard someone say this many years ago, and I'll never forget it. When Mephibosheth was pulled up to the table covered his lap. And sitting at that table from the king and all the rulers of the kingdom, when they looked around the table, all they saw was a man's shoulders and face. They saw Mephibosheth. And the king's table covered his crippled legs. Now that's important to me. Because I believe when the king brings us into the table, he covers our past, covers our wounds, and covers our mistakes. And they become a fabric of where we come from. And we learn from them. We accelerate out of them. It's part of our story. But friend, it doesn't define us. The table covers the things that have defined us our entire life. The moral of the story is everyone's welcome at the king's table. And when you get there, it doesn't matter what's happened the past 20 years. It doesn't matter what's happened the last 6 months. All that matters is that you're covered and that you're called by your name and that you have a heritage and you have a future. And if we're ever going to be the best us, if you're going to be the best you, if I'm going to accomplish what I've been chosen to accomplish, then I have to accept the fact that the king believes in me. And the king says that I have a place. No matter what your insecurities say, no matter what your doubts say, no matter what other people have said and tried to label you, when you're in the king's house, everyone has a future. And friend, I believe that with all of my heart for everyone that's watching this today. Hey, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I hope this was good. This is the 100th episode of The Best You. And I think it's all about going from where we are to where we're called to be. And the biggest part of that is being able to overcome things in our past that have tried to cripple us and have the faith and confidence that you matter, that you're important, that you have a destiny and a right to step into whatever you've been called to step into. No matter how insecure you are, whether it's writing songs, pass the plate. I see that. Whether you're writing songs, whether you're writing books, if you're standing on a stage, if you're starting a business, if you're looking to be remarried, whatever it is, you deserve the best. You deserve the absolute best. Why? Because you're at the king's table. Well, hey, we'll pass that plate here in just a second. All right. I'll be glad to. I'll give you my PayPal. Love you guys so much. Thank you for being on. Y'all are the sweetest people in the entire world. I believe that you have to make the choice, Heather said, to be the best you. I absolutely believe that. Step into it. Step into it because you got it. Hey, great question. Love you guys so much. Talk to you later. God bless.